How can you get into Oxford for graduate school? Stick around and find out the 10 steps that you need to take today here on Navigating Academia. What's up, everybody? My name is Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, Oxford DPhil, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Navigating Academia, your leading source for guidance on how to advance your career in academia. As always, I appreciate the love, so please do like and share this video with your colleagues, with your friends, with your students. Subscribe to our channel, hit that bell to be able to get notifications for whenever new content gets out there, and comment below. You can follow us at the social media accounts right here. So, if you couldn't already tell by my doctoral gown here, today we're going to be discussing how to get into one of the top research institutions in the world for graduate school, the University of Oxford. With evidence of collegiate teaching going all the way back to 1096 AD, Oxford is the oldest constantly running university in the English-speaking world and one of the most prestigious, if you can get in. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Having spoken with dozens of my fellow Oxfordians, from one-year MSc and MPhil students all the way up to Rhodes Scholars and DPhil graduates, certain trends arose which mirror my own Oxford acceptance experience. And I want to qualify this before we get started with this video to be able to say that just because myself and my colleagues have had these experiences doesn't mean that they're going to be true across the board, especially because if you're not in a research doctorate in one of the scientific fields, it may be that the guidance I'm about to give is not relevant to you. That said, my hope is that even if you're going for something like an art history degree or a literature degree or a classics degree, for example, that you'll still find this video helpful in some way, shape, or form. If you do, please do let me know in the comments below. I think that'd be awesome. To tell you my story of Oxford just briefly in terms of how I got in, I applied for a Rhodes Scholarship. I took a look at the Department of Psychology because that was the field that I was in, and there was really no faculty with similar interests, but then I identified a faculty member who did have similar interests in the Department of Psychiatry, and he was in the DPhil program, and so I contacted him directly. We enjoyed one another, and so we wrote up a research proposal, and I was lucky enough to be able to get accepted into initially an MSc program, and then I converted that over and stayed and did the doctoral dissertation to be able to get my DPhil. People here in the States, they don't understand what a DPhil is, so PhD is the name of the game, so that's usually what I refer to myself as. But I got accepted by the program, and then by the department, and then by the university. And that's really the strategy that you need to take. And so today what we're going to be doing is taking not only my anecdotal experience, but also those of dozens of other Oxfordians that I've spoken to, and talk about really the 10 steps that you need to take to be able to get into the university for graduate school. Step number 1 is straightforward. Simply identify all potential departments where you perceive you have a goodness of fit. So for example, for me, I went to psychology, no, so then I listed psychiatry, sociology, epidemiology. Just come up with that list of different departments. That's step number 1, straightforward. Step number 2 is to identify graduate level programs that are available for completion in those departments. So simply go to the departmental website, take a look at the different programs that are offered there. For example, it may be an MPhil or an MSc. It could be a DPhil. There are a variety of different degrees that are offered by different departments at Oxford. So be sure to do your homework and take a look and make a list. Again, make an Excel document or an MS Word document to be able to keep track of all this research that you're doing. And again, we're going to build on this step by step. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is identifying faculty members in those graduate level programs that you've identified. It's critical to be able to go through the departmental website where there will always be a faculty list. Take a look at each one of those faculty members who are in that program and make a list of them. Okay, and then step number 4, which is obviously closely related, is to evaluate the goodness of fit of each one of those faculty members with you and your research interests. The first thing to do is to go onto Google Scholar and to simply take a look at the last 3 to 5 years of their publications, especially the ones where they were the first author or the last author, because the first author means that the piece was their baby, and the last author at Oxford would mean that they're kind of the supervising author or the senior author, meaning that this was something that they, really cared about that project. This is very important because you want to make sure that even though somebody could be, really big in your field in terms of having a really big name, they could no longer be interested in the research that you're interested in doing. I had a colleague, for example, who, he was in the same department as me for my postdoctoral fellowship, and was somebody that I still to this day look up to very much, and he was in my field, and then during my postdoc, he transitioned out of it, and he ended up getting into a related field, but one that I personally didn't have any interest in. However, if you looked at his research background and his most seminal publications, they were in my field, the one that I was interested in. So just because somebody has publications in a given area, let's say 10, 15 years ago, doesn't mean that that's what they're passionate about now. So you want to get a really up-to-the-date sense of what they're into and really think about whether you would be, excited and passionate about getting involved in that research program. You should not expect that you're going to get into that program and then do whatever you want and they're going to support you. It's just not the way that it works at Oxford. Also, look at their website. If they have a lab website, fantastic. Look for hints of things like maybe they have funding on a certain grant. If you can get a sense of kind of the work that they're being funded for right now, that's perfect because those are usually the projects that you're either going to be involved with, or you can establish a goodness of fit when you do contact them and say, I love the work that you're doing, with this specific grant, and I would be very passionate about getting involved with, the projects that are associated with that funding. Also, YouTube them. Take a look at their personalities. Go to YouTube, go to Vimeo, see if you can find them speaking. That's going to give you a sense of their nonverbal. So not only, how they write, but you have people who are eloquent writers and they're just really bad in terms of their, their verbal communication, or it could be something where they're pretty emotionally blunted. It may be the case that, the person is your ideal match on paper, but then when you meet them in person, it's like, I can't imagine, being supervised by this individual. And this is the best way to be able to do that if you don't have a personal relationship with the individual already. Maybe you met them at a conference, maybe, you've corresponded previously or talked over the phone. If you really don't know this person, that's a really important step to take, is to get a sense of kind of who they are and get a sense of whether that's a good fit for you. And if possible, talk to current or past graduate students of them. Now, obviously, you don't want to appear like you're kind of, being nosy and picking around their lab to be able to talk to people, so you got to do this really tactfully. But maybe you meet one of their students, current or past, at a conference. Maybe you guys are serving on some association board together. There's all sorts of ways that you can network with these folks. But it really is quite insightful to speak to someone who has been supervised by this individual. Keep in mind that if somebody has been supervising for, many, years, decades, it could be something where if you end up getting feedback from somebody who, they were their student, but 20 years ago, their experience may not be particularly relevant anymore. They could have had a great experience because the person was very up and coming, but now, of course, that person is really well established and maybe they don't care so much about supervision, which would be unfortunate. Or it could be something where somebody 20 years ago had a bad experience because they were one of the first supervisees of that individual you're thinking of working with, and now they're super seasoned and they're, good supervisors, etc. So just take it with a grain of salt, whichever way you go. Step number 5 is to determine whether the faculty member you're interested in working with is actually accepting graduate students for the next year or for whenever you want to apply. This is critical because just because somebody, is a supervisor in the program of interest doesn't mean that they necessarily have any openings. Now, one straightforward way to be able to do this, and again, it's good to stay as anonymous as you can until you actually contact that potential supervisor, especially if you don't know them. If you do, you can just contact them and ask, but if you don't, you can call the general departmental number and simply ask whether or not they have any slots open for the next year. And if they don't know, usually they'll be willing to, ask. You can give your return email address, and usually the secretary is the one who will get back to you. Step number 6 is the big one, right? And this is making contact with the faculty member. Always make sure to do things like, include your CV. It's always good instead of, only corresponding via email. If the conversation, it really kind of gets going, you can say, perhaps, we could set up a convenient time for you to speak, or, on the phone, or even to have a Skype session. It's all about convenience for them. If it's something where they can talk at 9 a.m. and you're in a time zone where you got to wake up at 1 a.m. to be able to have that phone call, then you wake up at 1 a.m. and you have that phone call. Don't complain. Don't try to change the time, even though you may have other things going on or you may be exhausted. Take an energy drink and you stay up and get that done, right? At the end of the day, This is Oxford, and I'm not trying to put Oxford, far above every other university, obviously, but it is a very unique place in terms of the bureaucracy that you can expect, departmental politics, supervisor politics. You really got to learn how to play the game. And on this one, you want to make their life as easy as possible. So get in contact with them. Again, you'll get a sense based on those YouTube videos and all of their personality, or discussions with graduate students, past or present, of their personality, and make sure you use that information to craft your message. If the person is, super warm, then it would be appropriate to say, I love your work. It would be such a pleasure to, discuss with you, any openings you might have in your program for next year. You can be warm and fluffy, but if the person is, much more, stiff upper lip, as they say in the UK, much more kind of hands-off, they're more stoic, much more what would be considered they're, very, very professional, then you want to be real careful. You don't want to use adjectives like very, extremely, greatly, anything like this. Just cut out all the adjectives, and you'll come across a lot more professionally to them, and they'll want to work with professional individuals like yourself. So that's a great start when you're making that contact. Step number 7 is to discuss project ideas with that faculty member. You want to let them take the lead. If you've shown them that, your CV and discussed your interest and the perceived goodness of fit, don't jump out there and say, here are the 5 ideas that I have for studies, and expect that they're going to pick one of them and say, oh, this is great, I'd love to work with you on this. That is highly unlikely. Don't think that you're going to be working on your own study ideas. You need to show them that you're an asset to their team, working on projects that they are passionate about. This is critical, right? You are a puzzle piece who is going to fit into their puzzle, not the other way around. Yes, you're going to be the one who's applying, and yes, of course, it's your doctorate, and trust me, I understand that. I've been there. However, you really have no leverage in this situation, so you really want to, establish yourself as someone who is somebody with good and innovative ideas, but is somebody who is going to be someone who effectively is their employee, insofar as somebody who can take orders, and who can, even though provide insight, who can really, follow those expectations that are going to be set out by that supervisor. So make sure that, yes, discuss project ideas, be enthusiastic about the ideas that they bring to the table, and, make sure that this is really a good fit for you. No, it may not be your dream doctoral or master's project, but if it's something that you get really passionate about, the more you look into it and say, this is something I could fall in love with, then, all the better. That's what happened for me. My topic, the first one that I picked, it didn't end up being what my doctorate was about, but the topic that I did end up on was one that, to this day, I'm very passionate about. I really fell in love with the subfield that I ended up in. Step 8 is to write the formal application essay, so your research proposal, and have that faculty member review it prior to you submitting it. You always want to make sure that you're intimately involving your potential supervisor in the application process. Let him or her take a look at it, give you constructive feedback. Make sure to take it all on board. Don't say, well, I don't care about that, so I'm not going to put that in there. Really listen to them. If you're not ready to listen to them now, you should not apply to work with that supervisor. It's going to leave a real bad taste, for them. If they, get a copy and they see, this person didn't take any of my guidance, they're going to think that you're going to be a real rebel, you're going to be a rabble-rouser, you're going to, kind of go and do your own thing, you're going to be a maverick, and that is something at Oxford that does not fly. So you're really going to want to make sure that, you can color inside the lines here. Step number 9, as I mentioned in my own story, is to expect to work from the bottom up, right? Instead of saying, I'll be accepted by the university, and then into the program by that department, and then by the supervisor, work it the other way. Really work on getting to know the supervisor, establishing that you're an asset, establishing that goodness of fit, and making the supervisor excited about you, and the fact that you can really advance their research program, working on whatever that proposed study or studies are that you applied to work on. And if they accept you, they'll basically rally on your behalf to get accepted into the program. And once you're accepted by the program, then you're essentially accepted by the university. And that leads on to step number 10, which is choosing your college. Now, there are dozens of colleges within the University of Oxford, and some of these colleges are known for very specific things. For example, let's say you're really into politics. For example, you may want to go to Christ Church. For me, I ended up at University College, which is one of the oldest colleges. There was a lot going on that I really respected about University College. I still do. I liked the leadership at the college. The geographic location of the college was perfect. It was right on the main street, on High Street in Oxford, in the city center. So it was perfect for me. But depending on the experience you're looking to have, maybe you're very religious, you want to end up at a place like Wycliffe Hall. Maybe you only want to be at a college that has graduate students. You may want to be at a Green Templeton, or you may want to be at a Lineker College. I loved Lineker College especially. And I had a great experience at University College. So it's something where pick strategically, find out the reputations of the different colleges. This is probably something, especially if you're not from the UK or you're not familiar with the Oxbridge system, Oxford, Cambridge, then this is something where you probably are unfamiliar with the importance of picking a college. And so this is something to be able to really spend some time on and to really, do your homework and investigate where you may have the best experience and goodness of fit. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Why do you want to go to Oxford for graduate school? And are there any key tips that you can share about your application experience if you've been accepted? Of course, if there's any anxieties you want to talk about, especially if you didn't complete undergrad in the UK and you're a bit worried about what your experience is going to be doing graduate school abroad, then let's chat about it in the comments section below. And don't forget to like and share this video with your colleagues, with your friends, with your students, to subscribe to this channel, and to follow us on social media. If you're interested in one-on-one career counseling, or you want to strategize about how to be able to get the highest chances of getting into Oxford for grad school, set a consultation call with me via the website below. Signing off, everyone. Have a great day, and remember to get out there, take chances, and be your best self. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.